In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on January 17, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Utah Jazz versus Dallas Mavericks. The Utah Jazz and Dallas Mavericks square off again on Saturday night at American Airlines Center, and it already has that same chippy, familiar feel. The Jazz are coming off back-to-back losses to the Bulls and these same Mavericks, with the Spurs waiting next on the schedule, and they have dropped 8 of their last 10 games, which is a rough stretch for any locker room. They are still short-handed as Georges Niang, Kessler Walker, and Lauri Markkanen are all ruled out, so the rotation feels thinner than it should for a team trying to steady itself. On the other side, the Mavericks just fell to the Nuggets, then bounced back by beating Utah, and they have the Knicks up next. But even that recent mini roller coaster still looks better than what the Jazz are dealing with, despite Dallas losing 9 of its last 14 overall. The problem for the Mavs is that they are also banged up, with Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively II already out, and Cooper Flagg now added to the list after spraining his ankle in the last game, which makes them look talented but very patched together. Even so, they come into this meeting as the squad in better form, and while Flagg being ruled out trims some upside, it does not erase the gap in quality that shows up when you compare these current versions of both teams. These teams just played each other on Thursday, and the Mavs handled that one by 22 points, which is a pretty loud margin. In quick rematch spots like this, you usually see the trailing team bring a stronger punch, so it would not be shocking if Utah keeps things a bit tighter, especially with the familiarity of seeing the same actions and sets again so soon. Still, the Jazz have given up 15 road losses already. Their defense has felt optional lately, and Dallas has taken 12 of its 16 wins at home, so this building has been kind to them even with all the injuries. So while a slightly more competitive game would not surprise anyone, the matchup, current form, and injury reports still tilt toward Dallas handling business and covering as the favorite once again. As our first pick for this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. These two teams are running it back just 2 days after that wild game in Dallas that finished with a combined 266 points, which is the kind of total that makes you do a double take even if you have watched a lot of high-paced basketball. From Utah's point of view, it was basically a throwaway performance, as they led for only 3% of the game according to ESPN stats and info, and at one point they were staring at a 38-point deficit, which can really mess with a team's rhythm and confidence. Lauri Markkanen is expected to miss Saturday's game as well, and the Jazz have not won in Dallas since the 2019-20 season, which subtly adds to the mental weight of playing in that arena, especially when they are already searching for defensive stops. That kind of history can nudge a team into trying to outscore problems rather than fix them, and that often pushes tempo and shot volume even higher. Klay Thompson turned back the clock in that Thursday matchup with 26 points and 5 made threes off the bench, and he moved into 4th place on the all-time three-pointers made list, with a real shot at catching Ray Allen in 3rd before his career wraps up, which is a fun subplot in a game that was already bursting with offense. Even though the Mavericks have not impressed anyone with their straight win and loss record this season, they have been quietly reliable in home games from a numbers perspective, covering the spread 8 times in their last 10 at home, which usually signals that their offense is humming strongly enough to clear expectations. Cooper Flagg and PJ Washington are both listed as day-to-day, and if either one returns after sitting out on Thursday, that adds a bit more scoring punch and spacing, which only helps an over ticket in a matchup that already leans toward pace and shot-making. With not much changing in the 48 hours between these two games, it is reasonable to expect both teams to lean on the same styles and tendencies, meaning plenty of threes, quick decisions, and stretches where defense takes a back seat once again. The projected total did get bumped up after that outpouring of points on Thursday, which is exactly what you would expect from the market, but the overall setup still points toward another high-scoring game that can clear the new number. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Boston Celtics versus Atlanta Hawks. The Boston Celtics head to State Farm Arena to take on the Atlanta Hawks on Saturday night. They are coming off a mini swing where they lost to the Pacers, bounced back to beat the Heat, and have the Pistons waiting next. And they have still managed to win 17 of their last 24 games, which quietly says a lot about their floor as a team even when they wobble a bit. They are not totally healthy either, with Jason Tatum and Peyton Pritchard still out, but they just pulled off a thrilling comeback against Miami, so the mood is more confident and tired of hearing about injuries than excuse-making. Atlanta, on the other hand, just dropped games to the Lakers and Trail Blazers, and the Bucks are next on the list, which is not exactly a soft landing spot. The Hawks have lost 15 of their last 22, and that kind of stretch tends to expose all the little flaws that were easy to ignore when shots were falling. They have their own medical report headaches, with Kristaps Porzingis and Zachary Rizika ruled out and Dyson Daniels listed as questionable, so the rotation looks a bit patched together on paper. Looking at the recent travel and fatigue, it does not do the Hawks any favors. They started their Western Conference trip nicely with wins in the first 2 games, then fell apart in the last 2, losing by 25 to the Lakers and by 16 to a short-handed Trail Blazers team. Now they get only 1 day off after that long road run before facing a top 2 team in the East, which is not exactly the schedule you would draw up if you wanted to fix defensive issues and regroup mentally. Boston is coming from the opposite angle in terms of rest. They snapped their own 2-game skid with that 119-114 win over the Heat, and that was their first game since Monday, so their legs should be in a much better place than Atlanta's. Peyton Pritchard is described as doubtful with an ankle problem, but the expectation in the original breakdown is that this just opens more floor time for Anfernee Simons, who has been on a serious scoring heater, highlighted by that 37-point outburst against Miami. He has put up at least 13 points in 9 of the last 10 and at least 15 in 6 of the last 7, which gives Boston another steady offensive option when the usual plan A is missing. From a home and road standpoint, the numbers lean toward the visitors too. Boston has put together a solid 13-8 record away from home, while Atlanta has stumbled to 7-11 in its own building, which takes away some of the usual home court magic you might normally factor in. The Hawks have actually taken 4 of the last 5 head-to-head against Boston, including that overtime road win last week, so it makes some sense that they get a little respect in the market. Still, the analysis here leans away from buying into that angle, since recent performance and that ugly injury report do not really support trusting the Hawks without a healthier roster or more points attached to them. The Celtics have failed to cover in 4 of their last 5 games, so spreads have been a bit tricky lately, but they are still winning and still sit at a profitable 21-19 against the spread overall, which suggests the market has not completely caught up to how good their baseline is. The gap between these teams, combined with Atlanta's issues and the quick turnaround after the road trip, leads this handicap to favor Boston at a relatively short line. So even with some vulnerability on the Celtics side, the expectation is that they steady themselves and handle their business against a Hawks team that just has too many warning flags right now. As our first pick for this matchup, the Boston Celtics to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Boston is averaging 117.2 points on 47.3% shooting while allowing 110.5 points on 45%, which is the profile of a team that can score in spurts but also clamps down well enough to avoid constant shootouts. They are hitting 37.1% of their threes and 79% at the line, and they are pulling down 44.4 rebounds per game, so they usually control enough possessions to dictate tempo when they want to. Defensively, allowing 36.8% from beyond the arc is not ideal, but it is not a total disaster either, especially when it is paired with that solid overall field goal defense. Atlanta's statistical snapshot is a bit more chaotic. They are averaging 118.4 points per game on 48% shooting, and they are allowing that exact same 118.4 on 47.5%, which feels like watching a team trade buckets all night and hope they have the ball last. They shoot 37.4% from deep and 77.3% from the free throw line, and they grab 42 rebounds per game, so their offense is clearly capable of hanging big numbers when things click. On the other side, they allow only 35.1% from 3, which is actually a respectable figure and suggests that, in theory, they can at least run shooters off the line when the focus is there. Here is the thing, though, even with both teams carrying strong scoring averages, the argument here leans toward this specific matchup landing under the projected total. With Boston's ability to hold opponents to just over 110 points on average and their edge in rebounding, there is a path where they slow things down enough to control pace, especially if they smell tired legs on the Hawks' side after that road swing. Atlanta's equal scoring and conceding number hints that if their offense is even slightly off or if their jumpers are short because of fatigue, you suddenly do not get the clean, back and forth scoring rhythm that usually pushes a game past the number. The three-point shooting percentages are strong on both sides, but if defenses force a few extra tough looks or long twos, scoring can cool just enough over 4 quarters. Free throw percentages in the high 70s are decent but not automatic, so there is also room for a few points to slip away at the line. Put together, the statistical profiles and the situational angle in the original write-up lean toward a total that sits a bit higher than what this game might realistically produce, especially if one side struggles to match its season-long scoring average. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Phoenix Suns versus New York Knicks. The Phoenix Suns and New York Knicks meet on Saturday at Madison Square Garden, and it has that classic early evening East Coast energy written all over it. The Suns are coming off losses to the Heat and Pistons with the Nets up next, yet they have still taken 10 of their last 15, which quietly tells you this group has been getting things mostly right even when it does not feel spectacular. The Knicks just dropped games to the Kings, and Warriors have the Mavericks on deck, and they have lost 7 of their last 9, so the mood around them is a lot more restless. In terms of health, there are some big question marks on both sides. The Suns have ruled out Jalen Green, and they are watching Devin Booker closely with that ankle issue, which already hurt them when he sat out on Thursday. They have been managing to win while staying a bit under the radar, but that most recent loss without Booker showed how quickly their margin for error shrinks when he is not out there. The Knicks might also be missing Jalen Brunson, who is listed as questionable with an ankle problem, and even though they are technically relatively healthy, they definitely did not look like themselves in that loss to the Warriors. From a betting angle, the Suns have been a pleasant surprise for anyone backing them regularly. No team has delivered more spread profit than Phoenix, and they arrive at MSG as 5-point underdogs with a sparkling against the spread mark that is described here as 29-12. They just beat the Knicks by 5 at home a week ago, which shows they can match up well, but there is a catch. This time they are on the road, where they are only 1-4 straight up in their last 5, and there is the real possibility of missing Booker again, which feels like pulling the main battery out of the offense. His history of big nights at MSG is well known in this write-up, so not having him would definitely sting. New York has its own if he plays situation with Brunson. He twisted his ankle in Sacramento, missed the game at Golden State, and without him the Knicks did not stand much of a chance in either matchup, dropping both. There is at least a small emotional lift baked into them coming back home after that 4-game West Coast trip, and they have a strong body of work at MSG this season with just 4 losses in 20 games, which keeps their confidence intact even if Brunson cannot go. Here is where things get a bit messy but interesting. On one hand, the Knicks are mentioned as 3-7 straight up and 2-8 against the spread over their last 10 games, with only 3 covers in 16 overall and just 1 cover in their last 6 at home, which screams do not trust this team to win comfortably. On the other hand, there is a note that if both leading scorers sit, depth could tilt slightly toward New York, at least on paper. Even so, the same analysis points out that the Suns have already beaten the Knicks last week, have been cash cows for bettors, and are also described as 28-11-2 against the spread, which still accounts for the best cover rate in the league. So despite a passing nod to a possible Knicks depth advantage, the larger pattern in the numbers keeps pushing things back toward Phoenix. There is even a bit of a tug of war inside the original thoughts. There is a belief that the Knicks could eventually avenge that loss from 7 days ago, especially long-term, but when it comes to this specific betting decision, the smarter angle is identified as taking Phoenix with the points. With New York covering so infrequently, including that rough 4-11 against the spread run at home against the Suns in their last 15 meetings there, it becomes hard to trust the Knicks to win this one by more than a bucket or so. The Suns also walk away from that frustrating loss to the Pistons feeling like they left a win on the table, and that kind of sting can sharpen focus for the next outing, especially when the opponent is stumbling. So even though both sides are juggling injury questions and the Knicks still carry a strong home reputation, the broader pattern in this breakdown leans toward Phoenix keeping it close and making this a winnable spot as underdogs, with the door open for a minor upset if things break right. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Phoenix Suns are averaging 114.7 points on 46.3% shooting and giving up 111.8 points on 46.7% shooting, which suggests a team that can score at a solid clip but sometimes gives opponents a comfort zone. They are shooting 36.3% from 3 and 79.5% from the free throw line, and they are pulling down 43.5 rebounds per game, which means they generate enough possessions and efficient looks to keep their own totals healthy most nights. They hold opponents to 34.9% from deep, which is a decent mark, but it does not completely smother scoring given their overall field goal defense. On the other side, the Knicks bring a more extreme scoring symmetry. They are averaging 120.5 points per game on 47.3% shooting and also allowing 115 points on 46.6% shooting. And they knock down 38.1% of their threes and 80.2% of their free throws, and they collect 46.2 rebounds per game, so they get plenty of chances and convert them efficiently. Defensively, they are allowing 37.1% shooting from beyond the arc, which can turn into a steady stream of points against capable shooting teams. Put together, those numbers sketch out two offenses that sit comfortably in the 100 teens and two defenses that are far from stingy. Even with the possibility of Booker or Brunson missing, the raw averages show that both teams tend to live in high-scoring environments with strong shooting from deep and solid work at the line. Rebounding numbers on both sides also hint at fewer wasted possessions, since second chance points are very much in play when you are grabbing over 40 boards per game. So while injuries could shuffle who takes the shots, the underlying pace and efficiency baked into these stats still lean toward a total that trends upward rather than getting bogged down. That is why, in the original logic, the over on the projected total fits more naturally with how these teams usually play and what their season-long numbers already suggest. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Indiana Pacers versus Detroit Pistons. The Indiana Pacers roll into Little Caesars Arena on Saturday night to take on the Detroit Pistons. Indiana is coming off a win over the Pelicans, a loss to the Raptors, and they have the 76ers on deck. Even with that stumble in Toronto, they have taken 4 of their last 5 games, so there is a real sense of momentum building. On the other side, the Pistons just beat the Suns, then fell to the Clippers, and they get the Celtics next in what is not exactly a soft stretch of their schedule. They have still managed to win 13 of their last 19, which is a strong run for a team that has spent plenty of time trying to shake off losing habits. In terms of availability, the Pacers are still listed as missing Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and Tyrese Halliburton, so on paper they are not at full strength. The Pistons are monitoring Paul Reed as questionable, but otherwise they are described as about as healthy as they have been in quite a while, which always helps a team that leans on energy and effort. They also have the built-in advantage of playing at home against a Pacers group that is dealing with the second game of a back-to-back set, so that hefty line hanging out there is understandable when you look at the spot. Here is the thing though, despite the schedule spot and the ugly road record, Indiana comes in playing some confident basketball. They are mentioned as just 2-16 straight up on the road, which is rough, but being as healthy as they have been all season, in the broader sense, has helped them stack those 4 wins in 5 games. They have also covered in 7 of their last 10, so their form against the spread is quietly strong even while the travel record looks bad. The Pistons, for all their recent success, are not the easiest team to trust when asked to win by margin. A lot of their games turn into grind-heavy battles rather than track meets, and the original breakdown points out that they often lack the kind of offensive pop that lets them pull away and cruise to big covers. So while they may very well benefit from rest, health, and home court, that does not automatically translate to a clean blowout against a Pacers squad that has been battling and cashing tickets lately. Honestly, with all of that in mind, taking the points with Indiana feels like the more comfortable side, even if it means holding your breath a bit on the road. As our first pick for this matchup, the Indiana Pacers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Indiana Pacers are averaging 110.6 points on 44.2% shooting while allowing 118.3 points on 48.3% shooting. They are hitting 34.3% of their threes and 77.6% from the free throw line, and they are grabbing 42.8 rebounds per game. They allow 33.6% shooting from deep, which is a fairly solid mark and can put a bit of a cap on an opponent's long-range fireworks when they are dialed in. Detroit comes in with a very different-looking profile. The Pistons are averaging 118.8 points on 48% shooting and allowing 112.7 points on 44.4% shooting. They shoot 35.1% from beyond the arc and 75.3% from the line, and they pull down 46.3 rebounds per game, which means they create a lot of possessions and often finish them efficiently. They allow 35% shooting from three, which is not suffocating, but it is not completely leaky either. On the surface, those scoring averages might make you think this is a straightforward recipe for a high total. But the original logic leans the other way, and it actually makes some sense if you think about how these specific teams can play in certain roles. The Pacers' lower offensive average, combined with their issues on the road and the back-to-back situation, could easily pull their scoring a bit below their usual number. At the same time, the Pistons, despite putting up almost 119 per night, are described as a team that does not always have that instant offensive burst, which can keep games tighter and more methodical than their season-long scoring suggests. If Detroit gets out to a lead but cannot truly run away, you can end up with long, grinding possessions, more half-court sets, and fewer transition chances. That kind of flow tends to drag totals downward, especially if one side goes through a couple of cold stretches. So while the raw stats show plenty of points on both sides over the season, the situational angle and style notes in this breakdown support the idea that this particular matchup can land under the projected number rather than turning into a pure shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Oklahoma City Thunder versus Miami Heat. The Oklahoma City Thunder visit the Miami Heat at Kaseya Center on Saturday, and it sets up as a classic spot where form and situation clash a bit. The Thunder are coming off wins over the Rockets and Spurs, with the Cavs next on the schedule, and they have won 39 of their last 46 regular season games, which is a ridiculous heater by any standard. Miami, on the other hand, just lost to the Celtics, squeezed out a win over the Suns, and has the Warriors on deck, but they have still dropped 4 of their last 5 overall, so the recent trend feels a lot more uneasy for them. On the injury front, Oklahoma City has once again ruled out Isaiah Hartenstein and Nikola Topic, so the rotation is already set without them. Miami has Jamie Jaquez Jr. and Davion Mitchell ruled out, with Tyler Herro listed as questionable, which keeps that almost healthy but not quite feeling around them. The Thunder come into this matchup white hot, and they just handled the Rockets with ease even on a night where their shooting was not exactly sparkling, which says plenty about their overall level right now. Meanwhile, the Heat have gone cold again and are coming off a brutal experience where they blew a 19-point lead to a shorthanded Celtics team, which really stings for a group that keeps insisting they are close to figuring it out now that they are relatively healthy. Here is where the spread piece gets interesting. The Thunder clearly have the firepower to blow this open, and the recent version of the Heat has slid right back toward those depressing offensive lulls that drive fans crazy. But the line asks a lot from Oklahoma City. The original breakdown notes that this Thunder team does not cover numbers quite like it did in past seasons, which matters when you are suddenly laying a big price on the road. These two just played last week, and that game ended in a competitive 12-point Thunder win, so it was not a complete runaway even with Oklahoma City in control. The Heat also have the comfort of being back at home, where 14 of their 21 wins have come, and that building tends to give them just enough juice to hang around even when they are not firing at full capacity. They should be highly motivated after letting that Celtics game slip away, and teams often respond to that kind of collapse with a more focused effort, especially early. So while the Thunder are still expected to get the straight-up win in this view, the idea here is that the number is simply too generous to ignore for Miami. Taking the points with the Heat feels like the smarter side, even if it means living with their recent inconsistency for one more night. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami Heat to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Oklahoma City Thunder are averaging 121.4 points on 8.9% shooting and allowing 108.4 points on 43.7% shooting, which is a wild statistical line on paper. They are hitting 35.5% of their threes and 82.6% from the free throw line, and they are pulling in 43.9 rebounds per game, so they usually generate a strong mix of volume and efficiency. Defensively, they are allowing opponents to shoot 37.6% from beyond the arc, which can open the door to some hot stretches from the other side. Miami's scoring profile looks lively too. The Heat are averaging 119.4 points on 46.9% shooting and allowing 117.7 points on 46% shooting, so their games very often live in that higher scoring range. They shoot 36.9% from deep and 79% from the line, and they grab 45.6 rebounds per game, which puts them in position to trade punches on most nights. Defensively, they are allowing 34.5% shooting from three-point range, which is a respectable figure and can help trim some of the damage from outside when they are locked in. On the surface, with both teams living in the 100 teens on offense and giving up plenty of points as well, this could easily look like an automatic over kind of matchup. But the original call leans toward the under on the projected total, and there is a certain logic to that if you lean into the idea of adjustments and tension after recent results. If the Heat respond to that blown lead against Boston by tightening up defensively and trying to control tempo at home, that alone can drag the game away from a full on-track meet. At the same time, if the Thunder's shooting is again less than perfect, as mentioned after the Rockets game, their efficiency could dip just enough to keep the total in check even if they still manage to win comfortably. With both sides capable of scoring but also carrying reasons to emphasize focus and half-court execution, it is not hard to imagine a game that plays a bit more controlled than their season-long averages suggest. That is the thinking behind leaning under the projected number here, despite all the offensive talent on the floor. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.